We're recording. Yeah, okay, there we are. Yeah, so it's been a while since I last did Spoiling Everything. I skipped out on that one Insidious movie because, you know, I'm not really into that franchise, but oh, I just heard there's gonna be another Purge movie, and that I'm all about that. So, you know, see you fuckers in July. Yeah, so this is Winchester. I'm stuck between two things on this movie. On one hand, it's really not that bad of a movie. It's mildly interesting, and on the other hand, it can fuck off. Like, kind of deciding, because this bitch can't do jump scares. I'm very much against them. This movie may have given me a heart condition. Fucking Christ. Yeah, so there's a lot of jump scares, and I might miss some of them, forgive me, because they are constant, they never end, and they've got the worst kind of jump scares. The scary face jump scares, and the fake out jump scares. There's so many of those. But anyway, I feel like I'm gonna have a hard time explaining this movie because it's about as twisty as the Winchester Mansion itself. But also, that whole story about Mrs. Winchester being crazy and building the house so ghosts would get confused or some shit, I don't remember. That was probably made up. I mean, I believe it was made up just to make her house seem like a more interesting tourist attraction. Which, you know, fair. Yeah. So the movie starts with, you see these construction workers, because the construction is 24/7 on the Winchester Mansion, and it never stops, ever. So, yeah, we see Mrs. Winchester walking through the house in, like, her widow's outfit. She's always wearing all black because she's grieving, and her husband died, like, 25 years ago, so I don't know. So we see, her niece and her great-nephew are staying in the house with her. Niece's name is Mary, and her son is Henry. I think her name is Mary. It might be Marianne. I don't know. I'll just call her Mary. So Henry wakes up in the middle of the night after the bell that's outside rings midnight, because it always rings at midnight. We'll explain that later. So yeah, he goes walking through the house, and he goes to this staircase that doesn't lead anywhere. It just leads to, like, a floor. You've heard of this. And his mom comes to find him, and she sees he's wearing a bag over his head, and I don't know where he got the bag. I was wondering it the whole movie. No one ever asks. So he's wearing the bag, and she pulls it off his head, and I'm like, this is gonna be fucking scary. But it wasn't actually scary. He just has, like, whited out eyes, you know, the effect they do, and then they're back to normal, and she's like, okay, whatever. And then we cut to this doctor in his house with some prostitutes, and he gets a knock on the door from this dude from the Winchester Company, and he says, yo, Mrs. Winchester is, like, fucking crazy. We need you to do an evaluation of her and see if she is mentally fit to still be running the company, because she's got, like, 51% or some shit like that, and yeah, they want to get rid of her, so they send the doctor there. And so he goes to the house, and he's like, wow, this place is fucking huge. And, like, he's waiting in the library, and it does that stupid thing where a cupboard door is rattling in the wind, and he goes to check it, and then he finds out it's just like a window to a hallway and a maid's on the other side. Just fine, fine, fine. This movie has at least 2 other jump scares like that. It's... man, just... They never stop. They never stop. And then he meets Mary, and she's like, you need to respect my aunt and follow her house's rules and stop drinking so much, because she can tell, like, he's sort of an alcoholic, and he's, like, taking laudanum. This is medicine shit that he's got. He's addicted to it, definitely. So she takes him to his room. You get to see all this crazy shit going on in the house, because it's all weird looking, and there's doors that lead to nowhere, and cool, I guess. It's an interesting location, I'll give it that. So he's in his room later, like, waiting for dinner to start. Same, really. And he's looking in the mirror after he took some drugs, and the mirror starts moving on its own and, like, focusing on this chair behind him, and I'm like, don't do this, movie. But the movie did it anyway. And then he brings the mirror back, and then it moves on its own, and then you see like a scary looking farm boy sitting in the chair with like a scary face. Scary face jump scares, you feel me? And the dude freaks out, but he's thinking, oh, it's just the drugs, I'm a little bit crazy. And then a dude knocks on his door and tells him, yo, dinner's gonna be ready in 10 minutes. This guy, this creepy servant guy, remember him, he'll be important later. And he goes down to dinner, he meets Mrs. Winchester, and she's like, okay, I'll let you talk to me, and we'll get this shit sorted out. And we find out that, like, she specifically requested that he be the doctor that come to the house. You sort of find out why later. I'm glad it just wasn't a weird coincidence, okay? Jeez. So yeah. What does happen next? I think he goes walking around, like, the house, and I think at one point he sees Mrs. Winchester in the library looking at a box or something, and she hears him, so he runs away, and he goes to hide in this little closet under the stairs, it also leads to the basement, and he goes in there, he waits for a couple minutes, then he gets jump scared again. I don't remember what it was. It was probably just another scary face. And then he leaves and he goes outside. He's trying to take a walk to calm himself down, and he notices that that there's this like garden room. It's just like a greenhouse sort of with like glass around it. It's closed off, and he doesn't know why. Like there's a piece of wood nailed to the door so you can't get in, and he goes walking around, and at the same time, Henry. Well, he hears another noise in the bedroom that he shares with his mom, and he sees, like, he hears a noise, and then he looks under the bed, and then, like, this roller skate, the roller skates are actually kind of a plot point. It goes shooting out from under the bed, and he goes to follow it, and then eventually, at some point, he gets the bag on his head again, then he starts walking through the construction site with nobody noticing him. Whatever. And then he goes to the top of the scaffolding and he's about to jump, but then the doctor, like, he gets there right in the nick of time and he saves him, like, he catches him as he falls, and everybody's like, okay, cool. And yeah, they're also just kind of freaking out a little bit. And, like, in between all this, he's been talking to, like, Mrs. Winchester, and she's been describing how the house is cursed, and she's cursed something, and you know the story. All the people who were killed by Winchester rifles are coming to haunt the house, so fucking whatever. Apparently she keeps records on all the people who have been shot by Winchester rifles. She doesn't have all of them, though. And we find out that the doctor has been shot by a Winchester, and he died for 3 minutes. And he keeps the bullet that shot him, that's like engraved with "Together Forever," he keeps it in his pocket at all times. And Winchester's like, that's like something, it's connected to the dead or whatever. I don't know, man. This movie gets kind of silly. And then afterwards, I think he gets confined to his room, like, this creepy butler guy, not the same creepy servant guy from before, the creepy butler guy. I think the creepy butler guy is supposed to throw us off of creepy servant guy's trail. Keep an eye on that. He takes him to his room and he's like, you gotta stay in here. Also, Mrs. Winchester has requested that we remove all your medication because she's like, you need a clear mind to see the ghosts in this house. And I'm just like, if anything, drugs make it easier to see ghosts. I don't know what she's talking about. But then he gets stuck in his room, and then I was thinking something scary was gonna happen while he was trapped in his room, but no, he writes down some notes, and then he leaves his room. No, wait, before he does, this is really fucking weird, and there's no reason for it. He hears the midnight bell ringing, And he goes outside, like, he opens the door and he asks the butler guy, why is that bell ringing at midnight? And the butler guy says, it's midnight. He's like, yeah, but why? And then the butler guy says again, it's midnight. And I'm just like, are you fucking kidding me, dude? So he goes back in his room, and he gets really curious about what the fuck is going on in this house, so he sneaks out of the window, clever man, and he climbs over the roof, and he sees Mrs. Winchester, like, walking through the house in her weird widow clothes, and he follows her to this room where she's like muttering something to herself, like she's totally fucking out of it, but like she's drawing something, like she's drawing plans for the rooms that they're gonna build. And then all the candles in the room go out, and some scary shit happens, and he runs away, and he runs back into a hallway, and then he sees, like, all the doors in the hallway have, like, the boards with nails over them, so yeah, that's fucking weird. And then he gets back to his room, and he's like, this place is fucking crazy. And then the next day, he's talking to Mrs. Winchester again, and she says some fucking nonsense. She's like, did you break out of your room last night? And he's like, yeah, I did. And she's like, okay, thank you for being honest with me. And then she explains everything to him, that the bell rings at midnight because that's when the ghosts are the most powerful, and they possess her, and they make her, like, draw up plans for rooms. The rooms are supposed to be perfect recreations of the rooms that the person died in, which doesn't make much sense to me, because they specifically say that a bunch of, like, the Winchester rifles were used in the war, and so most of those people did not die in rooms. They died outside. I don't fucking know, man. So, yeah. Then she's got, like, a blueprint for a room that's supposed to be full of gun cases and everything, which is weird, because she doesn't actually allow any guns in the house, because she's like, the guns are killing and stuff, and it's evil and whatever. Yeah. Like, honestly, if this movie was just, like, a historical piece about this doctor guy just interviewing a sort of crazy lady about, like, what she feels is happening to her without the jump scares, like, I feel like the jump scares are really holding this movie back from being something better. I'm just saying. That's just how I feel, man. So, yeah. I think... Yeah. Oh, yeah. This is where shit kind of gets real. So, eventually, the doctor is talking to Mary because, like, Henry's resting because, you know, suicide takes a lot out of you. So they start talking, and they share stories about how they lost their loved ones because the doctor guy lost his wife, one way or another. We'll find out how. And then they hear a sound, and they go looking in the room that Henry was in, and he's gone. He jumped out the window or something. Yeah. They really ought to put locks on those. I mean, people get out in and out of windows, like, a lot in this movie. So, he goes out through the window, and then he makes it to the room that they just built, the one with, like, all the gun cabinets, and Winchester, she's walking up the stairs to get there, and she's like, Henry, what? And then she's like, Henry, what are you doing here? And he tries to shoot her, but he misses. Like, she's at point blank range, and he fucking misses her. Guy sucks. And she tries to run away, and he shoots her a couple more times, but he misses. And then he runs out of bullets, so he tries to use the butt of the rifle to just, like, smash her fucking head in, but he gets stopped, and then, like, the ghost, like, leaves him somehow. And then they take him back to his room, and the doctor's just like, this guy needs to go to a fucking hospital. And also, while I'm at it, I just want to say something really important. This movie has a lot of weird dubbing. Like, there's this one guy, and I swear, most of his lines, like, his lips don't match what he's saying, and his voice sounds weird. I think they dubbed his voice. Like, I don't want to go into it, but I just wanted to mention that. It was weird to me. Anyway, so they all go into this room, and then Winchester's, like, she tells the guy that's with him, John, he's the bad dub guy, she tells him to nail up the rooms, because if the ghosts don't, like, move on, they have to be trapped in the room with 13 nails. It's very important. I don't fucking know. So he starts nailing up the room, and they're just like, what the fuck, now we're stuck in here. But then it happens again. The fucking cupboard starts making noises. I don't know why. And then the doctor goes over there, he opens it, there's nothing there, and then the back of the closet opens because it's a secret door. It's so pointless. That was pointless. Fuck you. Anyway, so they start arguing. Doctor's like, he needs to go to a hospital, and then Winchester's arguing, no, he has to stay here, he won't be safe, and fucking whatever, and then she's like, I'll prove it to you. And the doctor goes to the phone, and he calls the Winchester company, the dude who hired him, and he's like, I need you to send a car, and there's no reason for it, because it never really amounts to anything. But then he goes to turn around the corner, and creepy servant dude is there, for no reason. It's another fake-out jump scare, fucking guy. So, well. This is where shit gets interesting. Put that in quotes. Interesting. So he's like, I need you to get my bags and everything, and the servant guy's like, of course, and he starts leading him through the house, and well, he starts talking about how he's seen some stuff too, and he's like, Doctor, you've seen some things in this house, I have too, there are ghosts in this house and everything. And then I'm listening to him talk, and I'm thinking, that guy's a fucking ghost, isn't he? And then, like, he lets the doctor go ahead of him, and he's like, it doesn't matter what Winchester does, her family is still doomed, because just, it's hard to describe this scene, because I think it was actually kind of, like, well done, a little bit, but it's another scary face jump scare, so fuck it, kind of. So he leads him, he, like, gestures towards a staircase, and he's like, please go this way, and he's like, it doesn't matter, they're Winchesters, and they'll all die, and then his face goes all scary, and the music swells and shit, and it's spooky, and then he vanishes, and, like, the doctor gets really scared because the staircase he walked up was the staircase to nowhere. And then he runs back to Winchester, and he's like, there is a man that works in this house, and he is fucking crazy. And I'm just like, that dude just vanished. Did you not see the scary face? Like, he just thinks it's withdrawal symptoms because he got his medicine taken away. And just, what the fuck? Then he goes over to her, and she's looking at a newspaper clipping, and he's like, that's the guy right there in that photo. And they're like, he's been dead for 20 years. What are we even doing? And she's like, his two brothers were killed in the war, and then he decided to fucking take a gun and shoot up the Winchester office, and then he got cornered in there, and he was sitting in a chair in a room that looked exactly like the room that they just built, and he's singing a little song to himself. It's actually kind of a nice song. And then he gets shot down by a bunch of policemen, or something like that. And yeah, he's looking for revenge because of his brothers and the fact that he got killed. Alright, fine. Whatever. Now what else happens? Because it all just kind of, like, becomes a bit of a blur at this point. I think the whole house starts shaking, and, like, it was an actual earthquake, because it happened in 1906. I think there was a note about it at the end of the movie. Yeah. Winchester's, like, in the room, they all go up to, like, the death room or whatever, and they're just like, seal the door or something. I don't fucking know. And she's like, I think the guy's name was Ben, and she's like, Ben, this is bullshit. You gotta let go, man. And then the whole house starts shaking, and Henry's getting possessed again. And then John, the guy who was with them, he gets dragged out of the room and killed by a collapsing wall. And then the doctor gets dragged out of the wall, but he gets dragged out of the room, but he lives somehow. And yeah. And at the same time, like, Mary and Henry and the creepy butler dude, they're in the other room and a bunch of shit goes down. The creepy butler dude dies, he gets squished by something, and Henry goes missing. And the doctor, he gets up, and then he's in the hallway with, like, all the doors that, like, are boarded up, but then all the nails have fallen out of them, and yeah. And he's like, you know what? I'm not going that way. So he goes to the kitchen, and he turns the corner, and then he sees, like, a slave guy who was probably killed by one of the rifles. He's just seeing ghosts everywhere, and then there's, like, this board in the kitchen with, like, a bunch of, like, rooms listed on it, and he sees, like, garden room listed, and instead of, like, going back up, like, he got blocked from the room that Winchester's in by, like, a bunch of debris, and he's like, I'll find another way in. And then he goes to the garden room for some reason. Like, the idea is that the room was built for his wife's spirit, because it turns out that his wife was trying to commit suicide, and he pulled the gun away from her, and he got shot and died for 3 minutes and somehow, and then she killed herself, and yeah, that's what happened. You see, like, a recap of it. And then he wakes up, and then he sees, like, the ghosts of all the people that were in the rooms around him, and it's like a bunch of different people that are all pissed off, but they don't attack him or anything. They just kind of, like, they point him to an axe, and he grabs the axe, and then he walks around the house, and he goes up the staircase to nowhere, and he picks up 13 nails off the ground that the slave ghost left him, and he uses the axe to break through the floor, and the floor leads right up to that one room where they all just were. And, man, and meanwhile, Mary's just walking around looking for Henry, getting spooked by shit. She walks down the hallway, and all the doors are closed, and then she turns around, and they're all open. Whatever. Honestly, it's kind of boring to explain this, because it's just silly. It's really silly. But eventually the whole idea was that the doctor's bullet, because it killed him and he kept it, that's the only thing that can be used to kill Ben. So he loads it into the gun. And this is so fucking stupid, man. The ghost Ben puts the bag on his head. Yes, that bag. And, like, 'cause, oh, did I mention, like, he wore that bag when he went to go shoot up the office? That's why the kid was wearing the bag. I don't know where the kid got the bag. Fuck it. So then he puts on the bag, and then he goes invisible for some reason, and then all the guns float up into the air, because, like, all the gun cabinets, like, shattered and the guns fell on the ground. All the bits of glass and guns, like, float up in the air, and they're all aiming at Winchester and the doctor. And then the doctor loads the special bullet into the gun, and he closes his eyes, and he's like, I gotta believe. And then he opens them, and then he can see Ben, and he shoots him. He shot a ghost. And the only reason he tried to shoot him before, but it kept going through him, and I'm like, is he really gonna defeat a fucking ghost with a gun? And he did. And meanwhile, like, at the same time, Mary's in the basement, like, she found Henry down there. And the two brothers that were also killed, they're down there for some fucking reason. And they're trying to grab at them, but she can't actually see them, so, I don't know, she's just hiding from invisible people. And then, yeah, when Ben gets shot, they vanish. And, yeah. Fucking stupid. It's ridiculous. And then afterwards, like, they're repairing the house, and the doctor sends a letter saying that she's of sound mind and body, and yeah. So they start rebuilding the house. All the ghosts go back to their rooms, and they get nailed in with the 13 nails. And then the doctor leaves, and you think, like, all the problems are solved. But then, the last minute of this movie is so ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Like, I don't know why, but suddenly, all the nails on this one door that was nailed up get pushed out, and they all fall on the ground, and then it cuts to black, and I'm like, first of all, no sequel baiting. There's never going to be a Winchester franchise. Ever. And then, the movie shows text on screen that says, in 1906, there was this big fucking earthquake, and then it says Sarah Winchester, she continued to build onto the house up until her death in 1922, and I'm like, okay, fine. And then the movie ends with, like, an old-ass black and white picture of the real Sarah Winchester, and then credits. Why did they show that last picture at the end? What the fuck was the point of that? Trying to give it credit? Because this isn't a real story. This never fucking happened. Don't try to fool me. And no fucking sequel baiting, okay? Enough of this. I'm over it, man. I'm sick of movies, like, trying to promote other movies. Like, just... Okay. Remember when you could go see a movie and it was just a movie, and then when they wanted to make a sequel to that movie, they wrote an excuse into the sequel movie for why it's a sequel movie? Now, every sequel has to be set up by the first movie. No, just write the fucking sequel. Just... There's... Enough. I'm over it. So, do you understand now? Like, this movie would be really interesting if it wasn't a horror movie. Like, if it was just, like, a historical piece about this dude interviewing a sort of crazy lady. Because, like, the scenes where Mrs. Winchester and the doctor are just talking, and, like, he's trying to come up with his diagnosis and stuff, they're actually pretty interesting. It's, like, really neat to see the way that she thinks and what he thinks of her, you know? So, on one hand, this movie's not that bad, but on the other hand, it can kind of fuck off, you know? Do you feel me? Like, I don't know, man. If you're gonna see it in the theater, see it cheap. Do what I did. See it on a Tuesday. See it on a Saturday morning. Like, I don't know. Fuck. Yeah, I don't have time to be talking about this. I got better shit to do, you know? But, yeah. I don't know if any other movies are coming up recently. Any other horror movies. I saw a trailer for Slender Man before this movie, and let me just say, 6 years too late, and also, it looks generic AF. Gonna have to see it, but it's probably gonna suck ass. I'm just saying. Okay, whatever. I need to leave. Oh my god, it's a half hour. Okay, bye.